Is and it isn't. I mean, there's a certain amount of reality to that, in so much as everybody was shocked at the speed of the takeover. I mean, the Americans pulled out on July 2nd, and here we are 6 weeks later, and they've taken the whole country. And moreover, they're in a better position than they were 20 years ago, because in those days, you had the Northern Alliance that were fighting against the Taliban, and they didn't really control the north of the country. But this time, they controlled the entire country. And for the people in the region, Russia included, this is their worst nightmare. That the Americans, while they were there, they kept the lid on terrorism, on the instability that was pregnant in the country. And now with the vacuum that America has created by its withdrawal, all of those fears have come rushing back. Right. And so, yes, Putin has very much criticized America for interfering in other people's countries. However, for Russia, in practical terms, this is a nightmare. This is a real headache, as it is for all the other Central Asian states bordering Afghanistan, because they're terrified that the instability, that the radical Islam that's in the country will spill over the borders and infect the rest of the Central Asia, which has been doing very well. So everyone's scrambling now to try and put a lid on this, contain the situation. And Putin's taking the pragmatic line that the Taliban are in charge, the Americans are not there, there's no one else to talk to, and so we're going to have to talk to the Taliban, because our first priority is to stop terrorism spilling out, instability spilling out, and our second priority is to stop a flood of refugees fleeing the Taliban into all of the neighboring Central Asian states, which are mainly allies in some form with Russia. It's actually more economic, in so much as the Russians have become, the Central Asia's come on by leaps and bounds in the last few years. And since the president in Uzbekistan changed, there's now a process of regional integration, a sort of Schengen, Silk Road Schengen that they're talking about. And for Russia, he was talking in that press conference with Merkel about the fact that their exports of oil and gas to the West are going to go down because of the Green Deal, the de-emphasizing of hydrocarbons. And so Russia's looking for new markets. And the appeal of Central Asia is that it's a southern route out of the whole Russia-Central Asian patch, which is all hydrocarbon rich, on into Southeast Asia, particularly Pakistan, and then on to India. And so Afghanistan has become really important recently in the last year or two, because everyone's looking to open that route, the southern route, out of Central Asia, which the Russians would use as well, in order to export oil and gas to these new markets. And Russia, in the past, has been happy that Central Asia has been bottled up, because all the oil and gas coming out of that region has to go through Russia, through the legacy Soviet-era pipelines. But now it's looking for new markets. It's looking for direct access to Asia. It's become interested in cooperating with the Central Asian states to open that Afghan route. And now suddenly all of those plans, which everyone's been working on for a couple of years, have gone out the window, because the Taliban are so unpredictable, so unreliable, that the plans they had to build pipelines, power lines, railways through Afghanistan are now all going to be on hold, and really no one knows what's going to happen next. The Taliban have said already that they're open to these projects, but to make them happen is going to be incredibly difficult, because nobody's going to commit the investment in order to make that happen. Right. It's already the main guarantor of security in the region. There's a thing called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which was set up 20 years ago, which includes China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. In other words, the states that border Afghanistan are members of this. And it's there originally to provide security, particularly against terrorism, although it's mainly been occupied with economic questions. But suddenly that terrorism threat is there, and Russia is the one with the serious troops in the region. It has a base in Tajikistan. Tajikistan is very poor, and the Russians have already moved their troops up to the Tajik-Afghan border, which is the big, long, vulnerable one, and brought up tanks and what have you to harden that border. The Russians have also been doing military exercises, which just started for a month with the Uzbeks, which is the next country along with a much shorter border. And because of the SCO, this organization, all of those lines of communications, the protocols of how they cooperate with at a military level are already in place. And so all the Central Asian countries, particularly Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan, are looking for Russia to underpin them militarily. So again, to stop the instability, to stop terrorism spilling across the border, all of those borders are being hardened together with Russian military cooperation. So they've already successfully sort of shut down those borders. And now going forward, the Russians are going to be there in the background policing it, because the Russians have invested heavily in their military. And the Taliban is well aware of this. They know that if they cross the Russians, object to any sorties they make across the border. The Russians can come in with the kind of military firepower that the Americans are threatening. And that's going to calm it down. I mean, it's significant that the only embassies that are functioning in Kabul at the moment are the Russian embassy and the Chinese embassy, both of which have had security guarantees from the Taliban.